Hello, my name is Michael O'Keefe, aka The Movie List. If you enjoy this interview and want to hear more top-notch film industry conversations, please press the thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, and hit the bell to stay in the know. Alright, hello Patrick Ray. Before we talk about the movie you directed called I Am Lisa, please tell me about your life under coronavirus.
Okay, well, first of all, it's been interesting. I live in Kansas City. We had a lockdown starting, I think, towards the end of March, early April, and it's been, it's been hard just because I've got two daughters. I work from home. Luckily, my wife also works from home, so that part has been okay. And actually, my wife doesn't originally work from home; she just got to because of her job. But I've been, it was funny because we were working on this movie, the post-production, the sound, the color, and, we were able to get it all done during lockdown, and so it definitely allowed us to focus and get it all finished so that we could premiere the film and get it over the finish line. So, because doing post-production is perfect for lockdown. I'm stuck in my basement working on my computer. But luckily we had to do some sound looping, some ADR for the film, and we got that all done literally maybe a week to 2 weeks before lockdown happened in Kansas City. We had the lead actress fly in from Los Angeles to re-loop some of her lines, and it was like around that time, then all of a sudden everything got locked up, so we got it done just in the nick of time. So but I've started to get, there's been a few film gigs that have come up now that lockdown's been lifted. So I recently had a music video shoot, and obviously we're working within the parameters that of keeping things safe and following the proper protocol and all that stuff. But we had a shoot that was completely outside, and Missouri gets hot and humid, so we were able to we had to keep ourselves away from 6 feet apart while shooting this music video, because wearing masks, we all would have passed out from the heat. So, so it's been interesting. It's definitely been an interesting experience.
All right. Well, yeah, basically the two responses I hear are either like I'm in post or I'm writing and it didn't affect me, or, I was about to shoot and it's ruined.
Right, exactly. Like it's been interesting in the sense that you've had to kind of reformat your, I've had scripts now where I'm like, I can't shoot this now. I can't make this movie now.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on? So everybody's kind of trying to figure out, and luckily with the low budget filmmaking, you don't have huge crews. You can keep crews to a minimum, which is great. So like a lot of the shoots that I've been on recently we've had like 6 crew members. I had one shoot where it was like cameraman, audio, and me, and that was it. So you're just kind of going through your screenplays that you've written. You're like, okay, this works great for what we're dealing with now. Like there's one actor or one location, and you start kind of focusing on those scripts, and then you start looking at your other ones, and you're like, okay, I don't need to have this scene with 30 extras anymore. I can make it maybe 5 extras instead of 30. So those are the kind of things I think a lot of people are probably looking at within their projects.
All right, so please give an elevator pitch to my audience for your movie, I Am Lisa.
Okay, so it is I would call it a female-driven revenge film that mixes revenge genre with a werewolf movie. And, it's primarily female-driven. It takes place in a small Missouri town where our lead character, Lisa, is running a bookstore, and she runs into a group of kind of vicious girls, and eventually she gets she gets attacked and victimized by the local sheriff and left for dead. And during that time, she is bitten by a wolf in the woods, and she goes out for revenge. So it follows the revenge genre very closely, I think, but it mixes genres up. And when I was approached for the project, I felt I was like, okay, this is kind of a different approach to this kind of genre. I've always loved revenge movies. RoboCop's one of my favorite movies of all time. So, I wanted to, and I like the fact that it was very female driven, and most of the villains are women. And I thought that made it different than what you would normally see, like a film like I Spit on Your Grave or
right.
So it's, I think that's what kind of attracted me to it. And yeah, we just had a really good time making this movie.
But it definitely skews younger than I Spit Under Your Grave, though. We don't want to scare away people from this one.
Oh, totally. No, I was like, I was like trying to avoid. I was trying to avoid that kind of movie as much as possible.
Yeah. It's what would you say your age range is for this?
I mean, the movie. I think the movie's, it's bordering on PG-13R. I mean, it's R. Yeah. I mean, for some language, but it isn't that graphic at all.
No.
And I think that it's gory when it needs to be, but I think people see gorier stuff on network TV now at this point. So I would say, yeah, it's definitely things are more implied, and I feel like that was definitely the route I wanted to go. And the movie doesn't take itself super seriously either. So I think that, it has a sense of humor to it. I keep saying it kind of ended up being a horror, almost origin superhero movie in some weird way. Like Darkman, for instance. Like, I mean, I've always enjoyed that movie as well. And it kind of has that feel, obviously, on a much, much smaller budget. But yeah, definitely, I would say it definitely skews to the more, I don't know, upper teenager age. I think it's probably a little heavier than a PG-13, but if it was to get rated, it would definitely get R just for language.
So tell me what it means to get into Fright Fest.
I mean, Fright Fest is huge. It's a big genre festival. A lot of people, it's seen as kind of one of the top 3 genre festivals in the world. And this is my second time actually screening there. I screened a film called Enclosure, which starred Fiona Dourif and Jake Busey. I directed it. I think that premiered at Fright Fest in 2016, and it was later released in the U.S. under a different title, and called Arbor Demon. That was the title that the distributor picked. And that movie's been circulating on different platforms as we speak. And I actually got to go to the festival that year, so it was really crazy. I got to fly into London and.
Oh, cool!
And, it was just such an amazing experience, and so to get in there a second time with I Am Lisa is such an honor. And obviously, in a perfect world, we'd all be going and celebrating in London, but that's not where we're at right now. So, but I'm thrilled, and it's definitely a kudos to the cast and crew for doing a wonderful job and allowing it to get selected.
Sure. What's the audience like over there?
Well, it was funny. The audience was great. When I went, you have nerves when you're a director and you're premiering a movie.
Yeah.
So I would peek in and just see how people were reacting. But then I was basically pacing in the hallway when I showed the movie. So, but you always talk to people afterwards and get the reactions. And it's just the crowd is rooting for you. They want to like the movie. And I just had overall, I think the great thing about Fright Fest that year in 2016 was that the theater and my hotel and the bar were all in the same kind of vicinity. So there was a lot of drinking going on, a lot of celebrating. But overall, I just had met a lot of cool people and have kept in touch, and they've reached out in the last couple of weeks when they found out about Fright Fest, saying they're excited and the thing is that now that it's going to be streaming in the UK and Ireland, I think that there's a chance that more people can watch it, because obviously you can only fit a certain amount of people in the theater, and here they can, like, a lot more people can view the work. So
awesome. Well, tell me about the style of horror in this movie. We were talking about how it's a little bit younger, but how elaborate a little bit more on the style.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, we wanted to give it an 80s feel without making it blatantly 80s. Does that make sense? Like, we wanted to give it a style that felt like this movie could have been made in the 80s without setting it in the 80s, straight like Stranger Things. Obviously, the score kind of is a little bit more electronic, so it leans a little bit more towards the 80s aesthetic. But it's in terms of wardrobe and color and all that stuff, we tried to make it feel a little bit more like, almost like it was an 80s drive-in movie. And it was funny because, I kept saying when we were shooting the movie, we shot the whole thing in 14 days, which was a ridiculously short period of time.
Yeah.
I kept saying, I said, I think this is my first drive-in movie, you know, my first, and then it's, you know, the first time we screened it for cast and crew, we had to do it at a drive-in. So it just seems like, you know,
That's
and
funny.
I think it's going to be coming out in October at some drive-ins. So, you know, it feels like that kind of came full circle through fate.
Who'd have thunk that?
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I mean, I think the movie, like I said, it feels a little bit more geared towards maybe a younger audience, and I think that's okay, because I think that, you know, it's definitely going to appeal to, it's going to have a little bit more mass appeal than if it had been a little bit more dark in terms of its revenge themes, and I think it's dark enough to where it will appeal to a younger audience and still an older audience. But yeah, definitely we tried, like I said, we tried to make it feel like an 80s movie without it actually being one, if that makes sense.
Noted. Tell me about the cast in this movie.
You know, most of the cast came from Kansas City. The lady who plays the sheriff, Manon Halliburton, is kind of a well-known theater actress here in town, but she's been like on shows like The Sopranos and Law and Order.
What? Who is she in The Sopranos?
She was running in The Sopranos. She was it was like an area where they kept their horses, and she was taking care of the horse.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Yeah, she had shorter hair in those scenes. Yeah. So she's based out of Kansas City, and I wanted to work with her for a while, and so we cast her as the lead villain, and like the other actresses include Jennifer Seward, Carmen Anello, Sarah McGuire, and Millie Milan, and then Chris Billsma, who plays the one male villain. They all came from Kansas City. Kristen Paganos was the one who we cast out of Los Angeles, and we flew her in to play Lisa. And I think she was fabulous to work with. I can't speak, you know, I can't say enough nice things about her, to be honest with you. And you know, it was a very tight shoot. Like 14 days is not a lot of time, so we were really moving. We had to shoot 6-7 pages a day to get it in the can, and all the actors were super patient and dealing with the schedule, and we had a lot of locations for it being such a low budget movie. I mean, we shot this thing very low budget, and so you know, the actors all got on board and had a good time, and there was a lot of good like chemistry between everybody, which I think seeps into the film. Like it feels like everybody enjoyed themselves, you know. Yeah, no, I just had a blast working with them. I had worked with some of these actors on other films before, so it was definitely a good time.
Sounds like you guys got a little happy family there in Kansas.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that I think once you start working with, I've been working in the area of Lawrence and Kansas City now for 17 years. You start to kind of develop a you know, kind of a rapport with a crew and with actors. You know, you just know who can get the job done and do a good job, and who's easy and fun to work with and takes the job seriously. And a lot of these crew guys I went to KU with, and they've stuck around and continue to make movies and work out of Kansas City.
Okay, who was the MVP of your crew?
The MVP?
Yeah.
There was a guy. Okay, a guy named Tony Antovaros. He was the unit production manager on the movie, and he also provided the grip truck. So he has a grip truck, and he does a lot of key grip work here in Kansas City. But he also was managing the schedule and all that stuff. And that guy, he was maybe stretched too thin, perhaps, but he did an amazing job. And I would definitely, I mean, the movie happened because of him. So, you know, there were days where, you know, he was putting together, you know, stuff for the grip truck, and he was also worrying about like locations and all that stuff. So, I would definitely say he was the MVP. I think everybody would agree with me.
Yeah, every time I ask that question, there's always a clear answer. It's not like, let me think about it. There's always a clear answer. Yeah. I'm like,
who did a great job and also took the most abuse? Okay, there you go.
All right. How long? Let's get into some personal things. How long have you wanted to make horror movies?
Well, you know, I grew up in Nebraska, and you know, obviously I was born in 1980, and so I grew up in the 80s and early 90s, and so there were a lot of horror movies that I was told not to watch, like the you know, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Sure.
And because of that, I was like, oh, I have to watch these movies. My parents would be like, no, I don't want you watching that, and then I'd be like, okay. So you know, you would at that time, you know, Cinemax was like blocked out, but you could see just enough of it. So you you know, switch the dial to channel 5, and I'd be like, oh, look, there's Friday the 13th Part 5. I can watch it through the scan lines. And so it became kind of the forbidden fruit of my life, and so because of that, I just got really obsessed with horror movies, and I would rent stacks of VHS tapes from the theater, and because I had a theater in my hometown in Schuyler, Nebraska, that was a video store and had two movie screens. So we would rent movies from them every weekend, and it was always horror movies. So horror movies lend itself to low budgets. Like you can focus on making something interesting and cool on a shoestring budget. You don't necessarily need big name actors. And, you know, that's always been my focus. It's always been my favorite genre. Whenever there's a new horror movie out, I'm immediately excited to see it. I watch every horror movie that gets released. I just watched Host on Shudder last night, which was surprisingly scary. So, yeah, I guess that's always been my favorite genre. I would say sci-fi is a close second.
Got it. All right. So if people enjoy I Am Lisa, which movie that you have made should they check out next?
I've got two out there, two other horror features. One's called Nailbiter that came out in 2013. And it was in the Red Box. Lionsgate put it out. And that's a fun one. It's on Vudu. It's streaming on Vudu and iTunes and Amazon Prime. And then I had that obviously Enclosure, which in the US is called Arbor Demon. They changed the title because they wanted it to be higher up in the alphabet when you click on VOD. Now, this was in 2017. That has since changed. So, but that movie, it stars Fiona Dourif and Jake Busey, and that was at Fright Fest in 2016. So I would say definitely check out that one.
All right. So we were talking about how you watched a lot of horror movies growing up, but if you had to isolate to what experience, what was the horror movie that you saw as a kid that had the deepest impact on you?
Oh, gosh. You know, it's a combination, because I would say Poltergeist is a big one.
Yeah.
And just because it had that, I was into a lot of, Raiders of the Lost Ark is my favorite movie of all time, and I would say that anything that Spielberg touched, I was very much aware of and or obsessed with.
Sure.
On a more guilty pleasure level, the original Friday the 13th, because I would watch those movies on the USA Network in the late 80s, early 90s. And it was funny because I watched them on USA, which they were heavily edited. But I would say definitely that, and maybe the original Nightmare on Elm Street.
Okay. Well, Patrick, thank you very much for your time. Before I let you go, can you tell me what you have planned for the rest of the year?
And now we are working with our distributor to get I Am Lisa out in October. So it's going to be coming out in October. I think October 9th is our official release date. And it'll be drive-ins and video on demand. And then I've got a couple of short films that are also playing at some different film festivals right now. One's called Spiritual Practice. It just got accepted to the Horrible Imaginings Film Festival, which is also going to be virtual this year. And then I've got one called Fused, which is going to be playing at Genre Blast, which is actually playing. They're actually having the festival. It's in Virginia, and it's all going to be at the Alamo Draft House there. And so I've got basically just kind of pushing those films, and then I've got to figure out what I'm going to do next. I've got a couple of scripts I'm interested in doing, and obviously I'm looking at them from now the more critical COVID precautionary slant. I'm sitting there looking. I'm like, okay, how do we do this now with 6 or 7 crew members and minimal cast. So in location. So just trying to figure that out. I obviously, I'd like to shoot something before the end of the year. So we'll see what happens.
All right. Thank you very much for your time, Patrick.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.